Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're shortcutting you straight into the mind of, well, one of the world's most compelling actors, Wagner Moura. We're going to be looking at a really rare kind of artist. He's one of those performers whose work feels so raw, so completely discovered in the moment.
Yeah, and because of that, you almost miss the sheer discipline behind it.
Exactly. The meticulous preparation that it actually takes to deliver something that feels that spontaneous.
It's a fascinating contradiction, isn't it? I mean, if you really dig into the analyses of his craft, they all wrestle with this same paradox.
Which is?
His ability to blend this strict, almost theatrical discipline with a genuine, sometimes volatile emotional instinct. He just refuses to choose between structure and spontaneity.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're getting into what the sources are calling his emotional architecture.
A great term for it.
It is. And the core question for you listening is this. How can structure and spontaneity be complementary forces? Not opposing ones, but actually working together.
Right. He builds these incredibly meticulous blueprints so that the emotional truth can, well, move in and feel at home.
I like that analogy, like building a house.
Think of it exactly like that. If you build a house, the structure, the steel, the foundation, it has to be perfect.
Sure.
If it is, the space inside is completely liberated. Moura constructs these robust emotional frameworks for his characters, which paradoxically gives him the freedom to then improvise and discover things within those boundaries.
Okay, so let's unpack that foundation, because to get the actor Moura is today, we have to look past the big famous roles for a second.
You have to.
And really understand the cross-disciplinary training that built him. So what are these foundational pillars that define his whole artistry?
So the structure is incredibly rich. The first pillar, and this is probably the most essential, is his formal theater training in Bahia.
Okay, and this isn't just like a basic acting class.
Oh, no. This provided the real groundwork for understanding the physics of performance, how the body moves and how it commands attention in a real physical space.
And what did that specific kind of training give him that, say, a screen actor who starts out in film might miss?
Well, it gifted him what we call spatial intelligence.
Glacial intelligence.
Yeah. It means he understands how to occupy a space with purpose, whether he's standing alone in a wide shot or completely dominating a small room.
So every movement is deliberate.
Every single one. It's the difference between just, standing there and actually commanding attention just by the geometry of your presence. It gives him total physical control over the emotional signals he's sending out.
So that's the control, the structure, but his performances, they never feel stiff, they flow. So where does that intuitive sense of rhythm and timing come from?
That's pillar number 2, the music influence. He was really deeply involved with his band, Suame.
Right.
And being a musician, it instills this intuitive sense of pacing, an internal metronome that governs more than just the notes you're playing.
I can actually hear that now that you mention it. It's not just the words he says, it's the spaces between the words.
Exactly. He knows how to allow silence to breathe, or how to pause for just one beat too long in a really tense moment.
And that creates a certain feeling in the audience.
It creates natural emotional crescendos and diminuendos. He builds the intensity up, and then he knows exactly when to ease it back down. And this musical sense is also vital for ensemble work. He is an incredible listener, always tuned into the rhythm of the other actors around him.
Okay, and then there's the third pillar, which I think is the one that truly separates him, his academic training in journalism.
Yeah, from the Federal University of Bahia.
That feels totally outside the arts realm, doesn't it?
It does, but it's absolutely essential to his whole approach to truth. A journalist is trained to pursue authenticity, right?
Right, to demand rigor, to research.
And to never accept the superficial answer. This translates directly into his methodical approach to character. He comes at it with the reporter's tenacity. He doesn't just inhabit roles. He excavates them. He's seeking the truth that's buried beneath the surface of the script.
So if we put those three backgrounds together, theater gives him the structural framework.
Yep.
Music provides the emotional timing and the rhythm.
The flow.
And journalism demands the ultimate truth of the subject. And that alchemy is what creates this unique, controlled, yet completely authentic Moura style.
It creates the ability to build the character from the inside out. His theater training taught him that emotional control, the careful staging of a feeling, is actually the key.
Not just letting it all spill out.
Exactly. If you let emotion spill out uncontrollably, it loses its impact. Control is what gives it power.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you conserve that energy, it makes the moments of real explosion that much more powerful.
Precisely.
So let's talk about the specific mechanics of that control. This is where it gets really interesting for me. His absolute mastery of nonverbal communication.
Let's start with silence. He uses silence as a storytelling device with just astonishing dexterity.
Okay.
Think about some of the most tense confrontations in his work. Instead of rushing to react, he'll just hold a pause, a prolonged pause.
And that silence doesn't mean nothing is happening.
It means everything is happening internally. He uses it to heighten the emotional stakes. He forces you, the audience, to lean in and really feel the weight of his character's thoughts. What isn't said is often the most powerful line in the entire script.
How hard is it to maintain that level of control when the cameras are actually rolling? The pressure of a performance, it must invite accidental slips, right?
And that's where the structure is so vital. Because he has mapped out the emotional trajectory, the architecture, he knows when he can release. And he often releases through these incredibly tiny details.
You mean the micro-expression?
Exactly, the micro-expressions that unveil an inner truth that the character is trying desperately to hide.
Can you give us an example of what that actually looks like in action so you can look for it?
Okay, so it's those really subtle facial movements that reveal these fleeting emotions.
Mm-hmm.
When he's playing a figure of just, unassailable authority, you might catch a brief, momentary flicker of pure fear across his eyes.
Just for a split second.
A split second, right before his confident mask is reasserted. These tiny shifts, often just in the eyebrows or a slight tension in the mouth, they communicate immense psychological complexity. He shows you the internal battle, not just the resulting action.
So it transforms his characters from simple villains or heroes into people who are grappling with real contradiction.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to that central paradox of his whole process, liberation through structure. Why does establishing a clear, almost rigid framework actually create more freedom for an actor?
Because the framework manages all the technical demands. If he is certain of his character's core intentions, the emotional blueprint, he doesn't have to waste mental energy on finding the physical or the vocal delivery.
So the structure removes the burden of uncertainty.
It does.
It's like having the map lets you take detours.
Precisely. Every gesture is rooted in purpose. Every breath is accounted for. Yet the moment itself is open-ended enough for genuine, organic surprises to happen. The structure is the container. The spontaneity is the electricity that runs through it. He maintains artistic control while embracing authentic feeling.
Okay, so to ground all these techniques, let's look at the three big case studies that really define this balance. You've got precision and naturalism. First up, Captain Nascimento and Elite Squad.
Ah, yes.
I mean, that is the defining performance of controlled tension.
Nascimento is a masterclass in physical emotional architecture. Moura literally built that character through layers of perpetual tension.
We can see it in his body.
Oh, absolutely. You see the military precision, the perpetually clenched jaw, the squared shoulders, the rigidity of his spine. The physical architecture just screams control.
But if he's so controlled physically, how does he communicate all that internal chaos?
Well, the architecture relies entirely on contradiction. While the body is asserting power, his eyes are constantly betraying a soul that's eroding under moral compromise and stress.
So every assertion of strength has a flaw.
It has a hairline fracture of exhaustion and doubt. The sources point to his breathing patterns in that role. They suggest someone who is perpetually drowning in ethical quicksand. The weight of it all is felt not through shouting, but through the internal pressure his structure is barely containing.
Then we move to Pablo Escobar in Narcos, which, that demanded holding two completely different personalities in one body.
That was a monumental construction project. The goal was excavating the emotional truth of a criminal who was also, paradoxically, a devoted family man.
He wasn't just playing a villain.
No, not at all. He was constructing a complete human being. And the real architectural feat there was holding those contradictory truths at the same time, without letting one compromise the other.
So how did he manage that instant switch from, tenderness to terror?
You have to look at the domestic scenes. It's all in the micro-expressions. The softening around his eyes when he's with his daughter, it's immediate, it's genuine vulnerability.
And then the phone rings.
The moment business or ruthlessness intrudes, that softness is instantly hardened to stone. His face goes completely inert. The real genius of that performance wasn't the weight gain or the accent. It was the ability to transition instantly between love and violence. without one ever apologizing for the other.
And then finally, a really different kind of performance architecture. Sergio, this was all restraint and minimalism.
Yes, Sergio was a moral inquiry communicated through pure subtlety. As the diplomat Sergio Vieira de Mello, every single gesture carried this diplomatic precision.
No wasted movement.
None. He communicated internal struggle through tiny shifts that felt massive on screen. A momentary pause before delivering a high-stakes line, his fingers just touching his temple to show this profound calculation. His eyes tracking the human cost of these global decisions. It's the ultimate demonstration that structure dictates restraint. The smaller the movement, the louder the emotional consequence.
This brings us to the why behind his choices. Moura's craft seems so closely tied to a greater social purpose. It's not just acting for entertainment's sake, it's described as performance diplomacy.
And this is where that journalism background just comes roaring back, It resurfaces in his project selection. He uses his platform to prioritize narratives that expose systemic injustices or force necessary public conversations.
And he often chooses those over more commercially lucrative projects.
All the time. His acting becomes a vehicle for social commentary.
He seems to have this clear political responsibility in the roles he takes. He absolutely refuses to sanitize difficult realities.
Absolutely. Whether it's the raw violence in Elite Squad or refusing to romanticize the drug trade in Narcos, he presents an unflinching honesty. That is the essence of his performance diplomacy, compelling audiences to grapple with the human cost of political decisions and economic inequalities.
Especially those affecting Latin America.
Particularly those.
Right.
His performances don't give you easy answers. They offer emotional truths that demand you reflect on them.
And that is how he creates empathy.
Yes. His acting functions as this crucial form of cultural translation. By centering authentic Latin American perspectives and using that emotional honesty, he creates these bridges of understanding. The vulnerability he displays, it invites us, the audience, to lower our own defenses and truly understand complex social issues that might otherwise feel distant or, abstract.
So to synthesize the Wagner Moura artistry for you, the listener, his profound, authentic presence is defined by this blend of immense planning. The theatrical skill, the musical rhythm, the journalistic investigation, and then the freedom to discard that plan when spontaneous truth emerges.
He refuses to separate his craft from his consciousness.
So the core takeaway here is that his structured emotional framework is the essential vessel. It's the thing through which spontaneous truth emerges.
He mastered the technical foundations of performance, the emotional architecture, specifically to earn the courage and the capability to then abandon them when the moment of genuine honesty demanded it.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on. If we look at Moura's work, the more precise his structure, the more freedom he seems to find within it. So how does this balance mastering your foundations in order to feel free to improvise and adapt apply not just to acting, but to your own field? What structure do you need to build today, that routine, that knowledge, that discipline, to find your ultimate freedom to perform authentically tomorrow?